Hey guys, so we're working more with factoring and we're looking at, we always need to keep in mind that greatest common factor. That's a huge component for factoring. So if we're looking at a binomial, two terms, each of these terms, if there's the greatest amount of common factors. So think of your factors of 12. Well, it's 2 times 6, and 6 is 2 times 3, so this is like 2 times 2 times 3, right? Think your factors of 10. 2 times 5. What's in common? 2 is the only thing because of that 5. So my number 2 is my greatest common factor, but because this is a monomial and there's variables, you have to look at your variables too because that's all one term. So a cubed and a squared, you've got to look at what's the most. Well, a cubed I can't take out of a squared, right? I can take 2 out of 3, but I can't take 3 out of 2. So the most I can pull out of both is a squared. So that should look like one term, 2a squared. And then whatever you had to start with, this is a binomial, so you better end with a binomial. And you're dividing each piece, so if I'd multiplied back, it'd be the opposite. So 12a cubed divided by 2a squared is 6a, plus 10a squared divided by 2a squared is 5. And there's nothing else I can factor out, so you know you're done. All right, let me pull this down a little bit. All right, so now something super important we got to work with is the difference of squares. So if you notice a squared minus b squared, difference, subtraction, squares, that's that square you see, difference of squares. So the first thing we got to pay attention to is that you need to know your perfect squares. So if you look here, I made a list of your perfect squares going 1 all the way to 121. Make sure you pause the video and write those down. Your rule. This is a rule, so you can take it or leave it, but this is the easiest way if you just remember this rule. And as you know, there's harder rules than this after this, or as you're about to see. So the rule is a squared minus b squared. It's whatever you're squaring, a plus b, times a minus b. So let's just check out number 3, easy example to start with. You're looking at 9. Yeah, that's a perfect square. X squared is a perfect square. 49 is a perfect square, and y squared is a perfect square. So I have the difference of 2 squares. So what I'm doing is I want to turn this into something squared minus something squared. So how do I get 9x squared? What do I multiply by itself? What do I square to get 9? 3. So 3x. And then same thing here. What do I multiply to get 49y squared? By itself, 7y. So then I know my a is 3x. I know my b is 7y. So literally use the rule. 3x plus 7y times 3x minus 7y. And that's it. For number 5, you gotta look at what your greatest common factor is. Because there was no greatest common factor, I didn't have anything to do with number 3. But number 5, I can tell right away that 7 and 28 are both divisible by 7. I've got m's in both places. I've got n's in both places. So you gotta find your greatest common factor first, starting with the number. What could I divide both 7 and 28 by? I can divide by 7. What could I divide both m to the 7th and m? Well, there's an exponent of 1 here. That's the most I can pull out of both. And then the n, same thing. I look at my n here, the exponent is 1, that's a 3. The most I can pull out, greatest common factor, is that n. So the whole greatest common factor is 7mn. I started with a binomial, I better get a binomial in the middle. So you divide 7m to the 7th, n to the 1st, by 7mn. 7 divided by 7 is 1. M to the 7th divided by m is m to the 6th. N divided by n is ba. 28 divided by 7 is 4. M divided by m is gone, n cubed divided by n is n squared. Now, a little bit harder to see that this is a difference of 2 squares. You have to manipulate both of these to turn it into something minus something squared. 7mm is still outside. So what can I do? Well, you have to know your power rule. What times what gives me 6? 3 times. So m to the 3rd is the perfect square. Then, what square gives me 4n squared? Well, 2n. So then from here, I know my a, it's m cubed. I know my b, it's 2n. And my final answer, 7mn, m cubed minus 2n Actually, let's stay with the order, plus first, and m cubed minus 2n. Had I written the minus first, though, no big deal. You would just have to switch it the other way. All right, so that you can pause the video and look at all that and ask your questions.